Good morning everybody, it is the start of a new week and I'm heading off to Studio Double now to get some more timber for this reptile enclosure project. I'm also going to look at what stock's available in red cedar or western red cedar. I think there's a difference, but that's what I'm going to go find out. This is for the urn project. I need to quote the client, and I mentioned it in the last video. I've been working with Dan from Riverside Woodworks to take care of the carving portion of it. The client wants an animal carving as well as the name and date of birth details of the person who's passed. Last weekend I went around his place and he showed me some test cuts on some pine, and I'm going to show them to the client as part of the quote. So I need to find out how much the timber is going to cost to finalize the quote, and then as well as that I'm going to show him what we can do with the carving. Good thing I have some space. The saga continues with my jointer. After using that straight edge, I've got it a lot better and I'm happy-ish with where it is. However, now I've got the opposite problem where I've got a concave joint. So it's probably hard to see on camera, but it's tight in the end, and the two ends. There's a very fine gap. Okay, so I can squeeze that in and it tightens up. Now the interesting thing about this is that you actually want that. If you join two edges where the ends of those edges are pulling apart, so think about the outer edges of a tabletop. If those outside edges are trying to pull apart, there's a better chance that they will open up. If you have the inside of those boards, so right in the middle, if you have that as being the spot that's trying to open up, so you've got a concave profile cut into that long grain, there's almost no chance of that opening up. So some people actually tune their jointers, or they will hand plane so that the board is slightly concave. So you just need one clamp in the middle. That will bring the middle in. The two ends will be super tight now because of that tension. And because there's almost no chance that middle section would open up, it's now seen as a very superior way of jointing boards. So I'm actually going to leave this for now. I'm going to work with this for a bit. I've never had my jointer do this. It's always been in the other direction. So I'm going to see how it goes. The fact that I can pull in a 140 mil wide, 35 mil thick board, I can pull that in on the glue line, means that gap is small enough that I'm never going to have an issue with clamps pulling it closed. If I do, I'll address that later, but for now, I'm actually kind of stoked with the screw. I've been working on these boards, getting them all cleaned up, and these are going to make up the shelves. I've got to say, this is the clearest Vic Ash I've ever seen, I've ever worked with, and I'm so sad that I'm not turning this into a tabletop. It is so clear and perfect. It would make such a good table. Anyway, it's just it's quite interesting to work with Vic Ash like this, and to know that Vic Ash can be like this. But just, yeah, as I say, I've never seen it so clear. Unfortunately though, what that has meant is I've had to come up with a bit of a solution for this very not clear and far more pink side panel. Are you coming to listen? Hey, are you coming to listen? So this batch of timber that I got was very pink. It's full of gum veins. It's beautiful, but it's very pink. This one is like a beigey color. I'll grab one of the other boards and put it next to it so you can see. And you can see the difference in color between the two. And I didn't realize this was such a beige color when I was buying it, because I didn't have a sample of this on me. But I just assumed, how far off could it be? It is very off, to say the least. So what I'm going to do is take some of these offcuts from that last batch, and I'm going to glue those onto the front edge of the shelf. That way the inside of the shelf, the back end of the shelf, will be this sort of beigey color, but there'll be a strip of perspex and then the snakes and reptiles behind that with all their paraphernalia inside the shelf. So the goal is that when you look through that perspex and your vision is slightly distorted and the colors are distorted and it's full of all its stuff, you're not actually going to pick up on that difference too much. But when you're looking at the front of it, with those side panels, you're then going to see a strip of this pink. Morning everyone, some exciting news. The client who's looking for the urn confirmed yesterday and paid deposits. So today I can head up to Studio Doubled and pick up the timber for it. A nice wet and raining day. Here in Townsville we don't get a lot of rain, so when we do get rain we get very excited. And this year at the start of summer we were told it was going to be a La Nina event, which means lower rain. And no, I'm not discrediting it or having a go at the science, but we have had a very wet and perfectly wet summer as well. Every week we get about 2 or 3 days of rain, and it's just perfect for all the plants. I don't have the car today, my wife's got it. We only have one car, and it's normally fine, but in this sort of rain it does become a bit more tricky to handle logistics. All right, on the menu today is some of this red cedar. Got a rough idea of the cuts that I need. Yeah, gonna have to figure this one out. Just back in the shop, my feet are completely soaked through, but it is a bit of a benefit being just around the corner from the place I buy my timber. This is what I went with in the end. It's a piece of red cedar. A little bit more expensive by linear meter than I was expecting, but that's because this one's been dressed. So I kind of thought to myself, let me get a dressed piece so I don't have to do any milling. That's going to save on time. It's also still coming in under budget. I costed out for materials. I did $125. There's a little bit extra in there just in case. I made that mistake on that build, but this entire board has come in at $68. So if I can get everything out of this, bonus, I've made a little bit of profit on that. But what's nice is there's a bit of room there for any potential issues. With this reptile enclosure, I figured that I was going to be spending around $450 on the shelf material, and it came in at $710. So I was a million miles off. I don't know how I figured that out. And this is a real lesson for me. When I figure out the cost of the materials, put down exactly where that's coming from, the size of the board, so that you know to go back and that's what it's going to cost. The other thing is that because I quoted so long ago, because this project's taking so long, and I bought the material in different batches, when I've gone to buy that shelf material, the price of it has gone up. So that's also stung me. So that's a real lesson learned. Put in some type of contingency just in case, because otherwise now that $300, that's coming straight out of my profit, unfortunately. And the last update for this episode, I am heading off to Josh's place, Rivergum Sawmill, to pick up the African mahogany logs that me and the boys cut down a couple weeks ago. I am so excited to see how these things turned out.